Hey, Pflugerville friends and family. Pastor Darren here on our Kelly Lane Church property as I send you another video with another message about our moving forward and our progress as a church. 2 weeks ago I sent you a video from our pond on our church property, which is right back there over my shoulder, just that side of that white building. Remember how I said how the pond is empty and compared it to Moses parting the waters of the Red Sea? And I joked that I parted the waters of the pond, but I hope you didn't believe that. I really didn't do that. But I'm here to tell you about faith, actions, and miracles of God and the work of God, particularly from lessons that we learned from Moses reported in Hebrews chapter 11, beginning at verse 23. I talked about Moses' clarity and courage, and he moved forward in faith because he was committed to Christ, and he was committed to his community as well, the people around him, and that those dynamics come into play for us as a church too. So as we contemplate Pflugerville and Austin becoming two separate churches, I like to use the term daughtering. Holy Word Pflugerville is going to be daughtered off of Holy Word Austin. Just like all the other Mission Start churches that Holy Word Austin has started over the years, we're just planning to do the same with Pflugerville now as we've learned some lessons along the way. I think it's important for us to stay in Hebrews chapter 11 and learn some key lessons from Moses based on 3 questions that I have for us. Question number 1, who are we? Question number 2, why is it important right now that we are deciding to separate into 2 churches? And question number 3, how does faith make a difference? First of all, who are we? Moses knew who he was. He had a clear sense of identity, which is what allowed him to have clarity and courage and to see that he was making decisions that are coming from Christ and are for his community. Hebrews 11 said that Moses refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. See, so Moses actually grew up as a prince of Egypt, but he knew his true biological identity was an Israelite, was a Hebrew, a son of slaves. He chose that identity, and it helped him go forward to clarify his calling and to decide that he could indeed lead the Israelite slaves out of Egypt. But here's the thing, Moses knew he had an even deeper identity than being a true Israelite and a Hebrew. Hebrews 11 says that by faith, Moses saw him, knew him who is invisible. That's God. See, Moses knew that he belonged to God. Moses knew that he was a child of God, that he belonged to God's family, and that identity helped him move forward with courage and with clarity. See, you and I know the same thing. We believe the same thing. By our baptism, we are children of God. You and I are part of God's family of believers. That is our true, real church identity. Therefore, a church membership can change. We can move places, we can change churches, and we can belong to churches that teach the truth of God, and that doesn't affect our deeper identity. And so our identity really, in the deepest way, stays the same, even as we talk about changing churches. Question number 2. Why is this important? Why are we talking about separating into 2 churches right now and daughtering Holy Word Pflugerville? Again, Hebrews 11 tells us that Moses was born the son of Israelite slaves in Egypt, and they hid him from Pharaoh because Pharaoh had made an edict that all Hebrew boys should be killed because Pharaoh was afraid that Israel was growing too big and strong. But Moses' parents hid him from Pharaoh, and they raised him until there came to be a point where they had to let him go. They couldn't hide Moses in their home anymore. See that letting go process? That's what we're doing when we talk about daughtering Holy Word Pflugerville from Holy Word Austin. Pflugerville has a need, as you've identified, many of you Pflugerville attenders and even at Austin, to grow up and to mature and to engage more ownership and more involvement. And that's going to happen as we become independent and separate from our parents at Holy Word Austin, like Moses did from his parents. They had to let him go for him to become who God made him to be. So don't be afraid of the letting go process, the daughtering process. That we believe is for our growth, and it's for the good of both places. And here's the second reason, besides the strength of becoming independent and then daughtering. The second reason is that Pflugerville and Austin, we've seen now, are such different communities, and our need to reach them, our plans and our strategies have to be different plans and strategies. They're just 2 different communities. And so the leaders of Holy Word trying to do both of those strategies, but are different strategies at the same time. I've spent more time trying to figure it out, spend times in meetings, and we just believe each of us can go independently and then focus all of our resources on our particular strategy for our particular community. Case in point is Hannah's World. That is an awesome new childcare at Holy Word Austin. They have 18 children in that now, and it's going strong, led by Hannah Leitonen and Pastor Dan and the team there. Hannah's World would not work in Pflugerville. It's not what we want to do. Neither would the preschool and school that we want to build in Pflugerville work in Austin. That's an example of how different our ministries are and how important it is then for us to go our separate ways and do God's good kingdom work to benefit each community and our churches in a much bigger and better way. Finally, how can faith make a difference? Moses' faith made a difference. God called Moses to replace his fear with faith. Remember when God called him from the burning bush and Moses had all these fears? I can't talk. I don't know if I can do it. I'm not good at it. And God gave him answers to replace his fears with faith. God gives us answers too. Just like Moses replaced fear with faith, we can replace our fears. And I know they're out there. Fears are natural when we face church change like this. Fears like, are we really making the right decision to become a separate church? Fears like, do we have the commitment among our membership to do this? Fears about resources, fears about finances. Some people might be afraid we're thinking too big. Some people might be afraid we're thinking too small. Those fears can be addressed rationally and actually with some numbers and some logic. And we're going to do that at Holy Word Pflugerville on September 23rd and also at our congregation meeting on September 30th at Holy Word Austin. But more important than that is that we replace those fears with faith. Faith that says, with God, all things are possible. Hebrews 11 says that by faith, Moses didn't fear the king's anger, but he approached Pharaoh and he said, Pharaoh, I think it's time that you're not in charge anymore. And Pharaoh was considered a god, so anything that Pharaoh says goes. He's in control of everything. Moses said, you're not in charge here. Let my people go. I want you to end your slave labor. It's going to totally disrupt the economy of Egypt, but you, Pharaoh, need to let my people know. Moses approaching Pharaoh like that could have been killed, but he had faith. You and I have reason to have the same faith, to approach an aggressive, exciting plan for a school and church in Pflugerville, to face a decision that can create a new church. And that church may have some differences that are changes for us than our old church, but to face them not with fear, not giving the devil a foothold who wants to create fear in our hearts, but instead acting with faith. Faith that moves forward enthusiastically. Faith that when tempted to complain, instead we celebrate and we cheer each other on. We encourage each other on and we join in the journey together in faith, in God, because it's all about Him. And then, see these houses behind me? All these new houses. Hebrews 11 says that by faith, the people passed through the Red Sea like they were walking on dry land. See, when we have faith, then we influence people around us to have faith too. How many people in these homes are believers who are going to heaven and they have faith in Jesus? I guarantee you that just in these homes, in this picture right here, there are people who don't believe in Jesus and are going to hell. Who's going to help them? Who's going to teach them to believe in Jesus? Why not us right here on this church property or right across the street from them? So let's act in faith. Let's be bold and courageous. Let's have clarity that we have from God's calling to do what He wants us to do. Let's join together as a new church in Pflugerville and as an Austin church at Holy Word in Austin, and let's do God's work. Join me at Pflugerville after the service on September 23rd for a Q&A about all this. I'm going to show you a ministry plan for a Pflugerville church and a budget for a Pflugerville church, an independent, separate Pflugerville church in 2019, and you'll be surprised, delightfully surprised at what you see. And then plan to join us September 30th for a celebration, a meeting at Holy Word Austin, where we make the official decision that we are going to impact God's communities and God's kingdom as two separate churches. We're going to divide and conquer, we're going to daughter, and we're going to do God's work in faith without fear together.